I'm Linda, and today on Show Me How, brought to you by Baby Lock, we're going to show you how to make the Strips table runner. Here we have the batik version, and you can download those instructions at allpeoplequilt.com/showmehowrunner. The batik version uses pre-cut 2.5-inch batik strips. Today's version I'm going to show you uses pre-cut 2.5-inch strips, but in a softer palette. So let's get started. So for the batik strips table runner, you're going to start with pre-cut 2.5-inch strips, which makes this project go together really quickly. One set of about 40 or 42 pre-cut strips will give you 4 table runners. So the great part is you can really make multiples of this for gifts. Second, you need 1/8 of a yard of your piping, and that's just for one runner. And then you need 1.5 yards of your backing, and that would do 2 runners for you. In addition, you need the fusible fleece that's on the inside. For our project today, we used a strip set that was more of a soft palette. So you can see it's a nice livable palette for any house. 1/8 of a yard of that trim, and then 1.5 yards of the backing fabric. I started with a light center and kind of pushed the colors out, going from light to dark and then back up to light at the ends. All right, so I've got my strip set up in order. And since I'm always going to pull from this strip set using the wrong sides or right side down, I'm going to flip that whole strip set over. Now, as I pull, I'm going to pull that first strip and lay it right down onto the place it's going to be sewn. You can see now that I've sewn the first 2 strips together, and here's my third strip. You do want to pay special attention if you've got something directional like lettering, that you have them going the way you want. I wanted my letters to go out, so that's how I set it up. Now I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot because I really like how that just makes life easier. So sew a nice 1/4 inch seam. I did not trim my jelly roll edges where they're pinked. I just felt like I wanted to get this project done quickly, and I don't think that really is going to make a big difference in my project in the end. Some people do like to trim those pink strips. That's a personal preference. You're going to, once you finish sewing, we're going to cut that thread, and then you're going to press your seam allowance in one direction. So since I've been pressing toward the center here, I'm going to continue and press that. And then, as I said, I can just pick up that next strip and lay it right down. I don't have to turn anything over or anything. That's why I like having this strip set right here. Once you've sewn all your strips together, you're ready to put on the piping. So for your piping strip, you're going to cut 3 strips across the width of your fabric, 1 inch wide. So you'll have 3 1-inch by 42-inch strips of fabric. You're then going to piece those together and cut them so you have 2 1-inch by 50.5-inch pieces of fabric. Those are your piping strips, and it's so easy to make this kind of piping. All you're going to do is fold your fabric wrong sides together and press it well. Then just sew that on, and use a thread that matches very well because that stitching might show. You're going to sew that on at 1/4 inch, and you can see it's just a little flange, but it really adds a nice decorative detail because by the time you get the next seam sewn on there, you're just going to have a little 1/4 inch showing. Really a nice contrast. So now that you've sewn the piping on both sides of your runner, you're going to cut your backing fabric and put that on. So your backing fabric is going to be cut 20.5 inches wide by 50.5 inches long. And it's going to form both the borders and the backing. So you're going to just match up those side seams with the piping sandwich between and sew that backing on. And then once you've sewn that, you'll do the same thing on this side. And you'll have extra backing here. Don't worry about that because that's what's going to form those borders. And again, you're going to match up these side seams and sew this seam at 1/4 inch as well. So now you can see we've got a tube. We've got your pieced runner center, your piping, and that backing fabric that's also your border. Don't turn it right side out yet because you need to press first. So measure about 2 inches from your seam to the edge, and that should be your measurement. If somewhere your seams are off a little, you want to make sure, if nothing else, this panel is centered. So if this is 1 7/8 inches on both sides, that's okay. Just make sure you keep it even. And you're going to press along that edge, making sure also to press your seams out first, so that'll give you a nice crisp edge here to measure from. Once you've done that, you need to cut your fusible fleece, which I've already fused on. It's 16 inches by 50 inches. And you'll see I've got a little 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch on the other end that the fusible fleece is within, but I'm pretty close up to those edges on the fold part that I just pressed. You're going to fuse that fleece to the backing because that's going to be the part that has the least seams and bubbles. So it's going to be easier. If you tried to fuse to this, you'd get kind of ridges in your runner. Once you've got that all fused in, then you can turn it right side out. So because of the way this runner goes together, there's no binding. You just have to turn in this edge, do your quilting, and you're ready to go. Thanks for letting me show you how to make this easy table runner.